Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always, my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, it's the day after a 4-0 drubbing to Newcastle. Uh, I feel sick saying it, mate, but it is what it is. First things first, mate. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm not bad, mate. I'm not bad. I think we should probably start off by saying sorry to everyone that this hasn't come a bit sooner. Um, my mum's, it was the bane of my childhood that my mum's birthday is on Halloween. So my mum's birthday is on the 31st of October, which always
Shout out to
made it
Claire.
very difficult in terms of trick or treating because I always found myself at some goddamn family meal. And yeah, so it meant that yes, what has become the bane of my childhood is something that I appreciate more in my adulthood because unfortunately, at 24 years old, my trick or treating days are over. So I'm now quite happy, to be honest with you, to go for the meal. But that's why it's coming to you a bit late. And you put in a fantastic effort, mate. I don't know if anyone follows you on Instagram, but yeah, your Dr. Doofenshmirtz was fantastic.
I appreciate
So
that, bro.
the match aside, we've both had quite nice weekends, it looked like.
Yeah,
But yes, we could both have done without that result, I'm assuming, mate.
I think we could have, mate. We really could have. And I think, like you said it perfectly, mate, off air. Obviously, you guys didn't hear, but I'll tell you now. I think the most important thing is not to feel too high and not to feel too low. To be honest, mate, I don't think we got too carried away with the win last week. I think, if anything, aside from the sheer joy, it was like the feeling that was left with us was vindication, right? That's the predominant, overwhelming feeling that we had following the win, and in the emphatic manner it was, and against Brentford, who by all accounts, very good team. And I mean, they got a 1-1 draw at Wolves, didn't they? So maybe teams have started to suss out Brentford after we did. But I think it was always going to be a difficult game, as we kind of mentioned in the preview, mate, because for one, not like Newcastle are flying, sitting fourth in the Premier League. They've played 13 games, so one more than a fair few other teams in the division. But sitting where they sit, having the start they've had, just being as solid as they've been, mate. And more importantly, I think from a Villa perspective, losing that element of surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, it's like I'm one of the Villa fans. Like I don't really have anything against Newcastle. Like as a club. There's stuff obviously I don't like, and I'm like quite obviously opposed to their ownership and everything that comes with the
Yeah,
sort of Saudi regime and everything like that. It almost goes without saying, but that's not from like an against Newcastle thing. That's just I think it goes against the fundamental principles of football and what a football club should be. And it always feels like the elephant in the room whenever you discuss Newcastle, I feel
yeah,
almost. And that you go through this thing where you try and put it to one side because you're like, all I can do is comment on the on-field stuff because unfortunately we're kind of powerless to everything that goes on off it, and all we can do is voice our opposition and whenever we see something that's wrong, stand up against it. And obviously it was the Rainbow Laces weekend this weekend, and the tweet that Newcastle put out sort of announcing that and saying that Villa would be their Rainbow Laces game. The replies to that tells you just why this regime, and I mean, you can look at the World Cup in Qatar and why these things are such sort of flashpoints in football at the moment, and rightly so. But yeah, you sort of have to say that it has given the city a sense of belief. It's given them a sense of optimism, and it's given them a bloody good football team. It's given them a bloody good football
yeah.
team. And you have to tip your hat, and you have to say that we both, as clubs, are trying to embark on very, very similar projects. And you have to just hold your hand up and say they've done it a lot better than we have. And they've made better calls and they've made better decisions. And they seem to have better people in those decision making positions. And they're just strides ahead. And it showed. It's just like, and I think the reason why it's difficult to take is because we've seen the best and the worst of Villa in the space of a week. Like we've seen like that incredible 4-0 win and then a 4-0 defeat, and then it's just like, where are we as a club? And
Yeah.
I think obviously Unai Emery's got a bit of work to do, and he's certainly got his work cut out because, as you said, we the Jekyll and Hyde nature of this team has been perfectly showcased in the last week or so. But that's why it's difficult to take, I think, mate, is because we're no clearer as to where we are as a football club, and that's been the problem for a long time. Is it's just like, how good are Aston Villa? It's such a difficult question to answer because we're never really given a consistent patch of form to find that out. But that is the job of Unai Emery.
It is, mate. It is, and he's certainly got a lot of work to do. I think what bothered me about the performance, and I know like it's something that we both agree, mate. We both hate coming on here and saying I'm not accusing the players of downing tools, but there was a severe lack of energy and intensity, and it almost annoyingly proves the Jamie O'Hara's of the world right in a way about what people were saying post match after the Brentford win. Now, I don't mean like fully, obviously, because like when is Jamie O'Hara ever right about anything? But because I do think there is a lot in the fact that we played players in their actual positions and a formation that suited the players, which is one of the reasons why we got the result that we did last week. However, it's night and day, isn't it? The performance, the energy levels, the intensity. And, there are things that went against us in this game. Tyrone needs Emmy in the head. Emmy, for whatever reason, was cleared after, I think, 3.5 minutes to play, but it was fairly obvious that he couldn't. Thankfully, Emmy is all good. He posted on Instagram, shout out to Emmy. So, that's obviously some good news to come out of what was a fairly crap weekend. But, when you consider Robin Olsen's coming in, when's the last time he's played Premier League minutes? What, Man City away? And what happened there? He got punched in the head. It's an alarming little connection there. But I'm sure you saw it. I tweeted earlier. There was an account. I can't remember who. I think it's AVFC Religion. Like tweeted, Robin Olsen is wank, and I'm like, you've got followers, man. Like you've got impressionable people following you, and you're just like, no context. You're just saying that a player of ours is shit, and that just don't sit well with me. Like, it's quite clear that Emi Martinez is a better goalkeeper than Robin Olsen. Let's not shy away from that. And I'm not saying don't criticise players. I just feel like when you have a platform and an audience and a relatively strong voice in a space, in a community, that like there's just better ways of doing that. And it's stuff like that which has probably ruined the weekend for me a bit more than the result did. Yeah. Because like you can take a loss. Like how many times have we seen Villa lose, mate? It's nothing new. It's nothing new. And what do you expect after a 4-0 win, mate? Surely Villa aren't going to go and do the exact same thing again.
Yes.
But I think just the way like individuals have conducted themselves after this is on a personal level, I've found to be quite disappointing, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, man, and you actually, it's a really nice point that you've made there, because this is one of the reasons why I actually have like the Newcastle team and the way that they've always stuck by Almiron.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And they never hounded him. And Joel Linton's the same. And it's like both of these players have finally come good, and they needed to go through the ringer to do it. And it took them years. Like Joel Linton had to change position, but it came good. But they've always stuck behind them, and they've never booed them, and they've never wanted them gone, and they've never called for their heads on Twitter. And it's like we get our reserve goalie in, who's played one match in his entire Villa career and who's forced on as a substitute in one of the, if not the most difficult away ground. I think you can make that case now that it's one of, if not the most difficult places to go now in the Premier League. He's chucked on as a substitute, and we are already like, he's wank, get him gone. That's the like.
It's so toxic.
I actually think these kind of acute differences to the way that we treat the club and its players contribute perhaps more than we think to the different trajectory of these two teams. It's like, we have players that, like, Leon's a really interesting case, and how Villa fans are sort of, and like even me, mate, I'm not going to sit here and pretend, even me, like I've never gone on Twitter and been like, yeah, and I've never, even on this podcast, I've never said, yeah, Leon Bailey's done, get him out. I think the worst I've said about him is that he needs a loan, but I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I've criticized him. But that's the difference. And like the way that those players are respected, and look, you can say, as I said, it's a really difficult situation to manage, because there's what going on at higher levels of the club that we disagree with. But you can't deny that the situation that it's created in that city, the way that it loves and respects its football team, win, lose or draw all of a sudden, and the way that they never gave up on Miggy Almiron, they never gave up on Joel Linton, like these guys that have suddenly turned around and become amazing players, regardless of whether they're getting goals or assists. Newcastle fans have always loved and stuck by them. That's the difference. That's the difference. And that's why I think you made a good point about that Olsen tweet, mate, because that's the difference right now in these two fan bases, is that we don't seem to be able to do that. And look, like, I'm not saying that Robin Olsen had a great performance, as you say, but like, of all the players to criticise on that bloody football pitch, why would you go for Robin Olsen? He's like the most blame-free player on there. He's the one player that if they put in a bad performance, you can totally excuse, because it's like, what platform does he have to put in a good performance there? So yeah, mate, I totally agree that didn't sit right with me. But we sort of said after the Brentford game that you can't get too high with the highs and too low with the lows when this club is in this period of limbo. I will say it on the podcast right now, mate. We have to stick by Unai Emery for the long run. Win, lose or draw, no matter what happens this season, whether we finish 17th or 7th, we have to hunker down and say this is a long-term project. We have to start believing in players and trusting that they will come good in time. Because if we don't, we will never get out of this cycle. It's only once we, the fans, truly start to believe in it and we're accepting that we might have to give it time, do I think that positive things will start to happen. And that's probably what I took away more than anything from this Newcastle game, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, people will say on paper FC, all this kind of stuff, what I'm about to say, but you look at like two of Newcastle's midfield three consisted of Joe Willock and Sean Longstaff. You can't tell me that these guys are players who like wouldn't be abused by Villa fans if they were Villa. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's a credit to Eddie Howe. It really is. We're going to get so many salty Newcastle fans. Thanks to all the Newcastle fans, by the way, in the comments. Like, you guys have boosted the views on some of the reels. You guys have can always rely on Newcastle fans to get views on the channel. So shout out to you guys. Up the Geordies. But yeah, like, these are guys who, if we're being, and again, I include Almiron and Jolinton in that. These are not great footballers, in my opinion. And what Eddie Howe has done to them, and how he's transformed the team and changed the fortunes around of the club, you have to put your hands up to and give him his flowers for that. We had a comment about saying that. So that really bothered somebody in the comments when we said give them their flowers. So I thought I'd say it again. But as you say, mate, it's like, respect's a two-way street, right? Respect is a two-way street. So I'm sure if we can promote a more positive environment and really get behind Unai and the boys, then who knows what we're capable of? Who knows? I think that's really important to just hammer down, mate. Because if you look at the fixtures, obviously Unai's coming in straight away, and it's Manchester United at home. We've then got Manchester United away in the League Cup. Following that, mate, we've got Brighton. Then we've got the World Cup, obviously. Then it's Liverpool. Then it's Tottenham. Then it's Wolves. Like, realistically, how many points are we getting in that run, mate? Like, we're not going to be drilled into Unai ball come December 26th. That's just obvious. That's a fact. That's obvious. Like, so it's like a short-term pain for long-term gain is what I'm trying to say. Like, we just need to support the boys, and just like the support at Villa Park against Brentford, phenomenal. Can't fault it. Atmosphere is brilliant. Early goals help that. I'm not denying that, but let's spat the boys, man. Like, do you know what I mean? Let's build these people up instead of waiting for them to make a mistake and tear them down. Like, we're so flaky as a fan base. We're so flaky. I feel like everybody loves Leon when he's scoring, and then the moment he's not delivering on the pitch, for whatever reason, it's get him out of the club. So maybe a bit.
I feel the same with sorry to interrupt you, mate, but I feel like it's the same with Buendia. All of a sudden, it's like, why is Buendia playing? Buendia's having a stinker. Like, get him out the 11. It's like, mate, like 2 months ago, it was like, he's the best player at the club. Why isn't he playing? Yeah. All of a sudden, I'm seeing guys on Twitter say he can't pass, and I'm like, well, like 2 months ago, it was like, he's the best player at the club, and it's like that's the same thing,
No, you're absolutely spot on, mate. You're absolutely spot on. But like, nevertheless, I'm still really excited for what's to come with Unai Emery, mate. I'm really excited for the media, for the interviews, to just get a bit of a flavour. And Villa Park is going to be. I know it's going to be, because I know everybody who's listened to this, who will be at the game, will make it a very special place. And that's what excites me. That's what excites me. So hopefully, we can all come together. We can all contribute in our ways, and you guys will hear back from us with a preview in the coming days. Much love to everybody who has been supporting the channel recently. Honestly, like, it means the world. You guys have been doing phenomenal job supporting us. Obviously, we've had the Instagram, we've had the TikTok come out. If you're not following that, on Instagram it's at Villa Pod. On TikTok it's at Heart of the Holte. Follow. You're going to get short clips from this podcast on there. It's nice to see how that has been received early on. We've had really positive feedback. I think we feel down right from what we've seen so far. It's encouraging. The YouTube shorts as well, you guys are eating them up, which is obviously it makes our life a little bit easier that you guys are watching these. So please continue to engage,
100%.
follow, interact. I think we've gained like 140 subs in the past month, mate. So to anyone new who's involved, thank you for joining. Hopefully you guys stick about. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. It goes a very long way. And if you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and up the Villa.